Yes, indeed, folks. Torture with Ignominious Slaughter. A wonderful song. I'm not even that big a thrash fan, but these guys are great. Go check them out. MySpace.com/tortureband. And that's Nick Hugot is on the lyrics there, the vocals, and I believe he hosts The Swag Show, which can be found on YouTube. One of the only gaming shows I actually watch on YouTube. Generally speaking, YouTube has really bad gaming content and stuff like that, but these guys do some great stuff, and they've got some big industry people on there all the time for reviews. If you cannot find it, you can go check out my subscriptions on my page. That's Total Halibut on YouTube, and you'll be able to find The Swag Show there. It's good, it's very good, we like it. This is Blue Please, this is Wild Radio on WCRadio.com, and my name is Total Biscuit. And if this is the first time you've tuned in to Blue Please, well, this show is mostly about Endgame. Mostly, not always, but mostly. And to that end, I would like to announce a month of evenings with Uber Guilds. The first one of these is going to be going on tomorrow. Pug will be airing tomorrow for a special episode with Mech and Poptis of Insidia, the world's top guild at this present time. We'll be having a lot of fun with them. It's a nice, kicked, laid-back show. We have Cadwallian on there as well, from Wild Things Considered, our other raid-related show, who will be co-hosting with me. It's all been pre-recorded, so it'll definitely air tomorrow. We've got the Master Looter Quiz Show, where we demonstrate just how little Insidia actually knows about World of Warcraft. It is quite amazing. We even themed the questions to, like, raids this time. They still got them all wrong. Oh well, never mind. So yeah, that'll be fun. Now, next week, I'm aiming to have the Legacy, or at least some representatives from the Legacy, on Blue Please to do a little bit of an interview. The Legacy, for those who don't know, are one of the world's top 10 guilds. They also produced the first Yogg-Saron kill video, and they happen to be on my realm as well, so that's pretty awesome. I'll be talking to them about their history and their opinions on endgame raiding. And I am also talking to Inner Sanctum, one of the... You know, that is a really old Uber guild. I mean, they go back a long, long way. Inner Sanctum were one of the guys who produced the original guides for stuff like Molten Core. So it'll be great to have them on the show. We're in talks with them at the moment to get them on the show. And we'll also be looking at one of the big US guilds, which I'll be trying to grab a hold of in the next couple of weeks. So yes, a month of Uber Guild interviews. For those interested in raiding, this is the perfect opportunity for you to see it from their perspective. And it is a very interesting and intriguing perspective, I must say. Right, now we're done with that, so let's get on with the show. You may be aware, of course, that Ulduar has 14 bosses, not 13. The 13th boss is Yogg-Saron, and Yogg-Saron is, of course, the guy who everyone was concerned about dying, and, of course, has already now died, but has not died on hard mode yet, by any stretch. There is one other boss in the instance, which is designed, and this goes all the way back to when Ulduar was initially announced. Yeah, the big features of Ulduar were the hard modes, and they also said we're going to put in one boss that is hard mode only, yeah? And it's going to be an optional encounter. And that optional encounter will only be able to be accessed once you've done all the other hard modes. Or at least most of the other hard modes. There's a set of hard modes you have to do to unlock it. And after that, then you can try him. And this guy's going to be hard. This guy's going to be a raid destroyer, quote unquote. This guy is going to feed on your tears, so says the achievement. This guy is going to be rock-solid hard. We're looking at difficulty along the lines of maybe pre-nerf Muru. Way, way ahead of Sartharian 3 Drakes. Way harder than everything we've seen so far. At least in Wrath of the Lich King, at any rate. And that sounded pretty good to me. I enjoyed that prospect. We're probably not going to get to him for a long time. But when we do get there, it's going to be a great fight. He goes by the name of Algernon. And henceforth, I'll be calling him Algalol. For various reasons. Mainly because I actually have issues pronouncing Algernon. I don't know why. Oh well. So, this boss, I'm not entirely sure of the lore behind it. He's some kind of like messenger to the Titans or something like that. And he's like made entirely of energy and stars, which is pretty cool. He looks like a constellation. If you can remember the old pictures you used to see when you were a kid looking at astronomy books and stuff like that at school. You remember the drawings around the constellations of Orion and stuff like that. And he's like a constellation, but he's a boss, and he fights, and he does all manner of different cool things. Now, you'd think, well, this probably isn't an issue, right? Well, why would anyone care? Yeah, it's an optional encounter, so, yeah, it's cool. That's fine. No one's going to complain about that, right? It's optional. No. You would, of course, be wrong. Horribly wrong, in fact. Because they decided to implement another mechanic. And people didn't realise this until they got there. And that was, you get to fight him for an hour per week reset. Yes, an hour per week. He despawns after an hour, and you can't fight him again. It's pretty intense. The crying. Oh, the crying. You have no idea. I'm going to look up the crying for you right now. I'm going to find this thread so that you can have a look at it. The crying is incredible. You have never seen crying this ridiculous. There is a thread on the US forums. It is massive. It is filled with crying. It is hilarious. If I can find it. It's around here somewhere. Now, the point of this whole crying and the QQ was that, this is a stupid change. And no one could really come up with a very good reason for that. That's it. Here it is. The thread, unsurprisingly, is on the worldofwarcraft.com forums. I'll have it posted in the IRC channel. If you are not already there, I suggest you be there. IRC.MMO, IRC.com, #WOW Radio, or use the chat button on the top of the screen on WCRadio.com. It's the easiest way to get there. I'm having the IRC rep. My new IRC rep today is Davlin, incidentally, so welcome to him. And it's called Algernon only allows 1 hour of attempts. And it's a QQQ discussion. It is really ridiculous. It's like, the first one was like, oh, it feels like a cop-out. It's a cock-block for bleeding-edge hardcores. A saviour for those who'll sacrifice too much time/work/family to try and down an encounter they aren't capable of. Well, they're probably not going to get there anyway, let's face it. But it gets worse and worse and worse as you go through this thread. The first page is relatively reasonable, and then it goes insane. It's like, Blizz go research SOV and learn how to make a proper expansion. I don't even know what SOV is. Is that City of Villains spelt with an S? What? Oh, good lord. It's horrible, this entire thread is horrendous. I can summarise the complaints, though. This is retarded because I think it is. That's pretty much how it goes. It's like, Blizzard couldn't make a boss that was hard enough, so they made one that was artificially cock-blocked. It's not. It's not blocked at all. That is not a block. You don't understand what that even means. Probably because most of the people complaining were never hardcore raiders to begin with. They joined in like TBC and started raiding after the 30% Karazhan nerf, and then thought they were all pro. Oh, we're going to go to Zolomar next week, it'll be awesome. Yeah, we're not going to do the timed run because we're not good enough, but we'll wipe on the first boss for hours with the 30% nerf. We're hardcore. Oh, they're terrible. Let me tell you, back in the day, back in vanilla, that was when real blocks were, yeah? Real blocks, like Cthulhu double I-beams that kill everybody. Try that for a block. Or how about Veilstraz that was bugged? Or Razorgore that was bugged? Or Ragnaros that was initially bugged? Those were blocks. As I recall, Twin Emps was also initially bugged. There's plenty of... Aura was bugged. Couldn't do anything with that either. It was all blocks. It was blocked by bugs. And it wasn't just overtuned. It was just broken. In every respect. It's not like it's hard. It's like, this is impossible. No one could actually beat this in its current form. That's a block, yeah? Letting you do a boss for 1 hour a week, that ain't a block. That's actually a pretty reasonable mechanic. It's been done before. In this very game, in fact, but in a slightly different way. Now, I ask you this. What is the difference between having a 1 hour despawn and having world bosses? What's the difference between the two? Yeah? Because either way, you've got a very limited amount of time to get it right. Yeah? World bosses had a mechanic which ensured that you could not just repeatedly wipe on them for hours. Yep. If you died, you got a 15-minute debuff. Those are all the green dragons as well as Azuragus. I don't believe Kazakh had such a debuff. He might have. I can't remember. Basically meant you had to kill him, or you would lose the opportunity, possibly to another guild who are hanging around waiting for you to wipe. It was competition. You didn't get to kill that boss every week, and you had to be perfect in the execution when you did. Because you would be competing. In this case, you are competing with the clock. You are racing against time, as opposed to racing against other people. Funnily enough, the competitive edge of the World Dragons kind of made them the most PvP-est of PvE bosses. It's PvP in a different way. It's direct competition for a boss. Now this is that concept taken into an actual PvE instance. And it's not the first game to do it either. Final Fantasy XI, I believe, had a very similar mechanic. The avatars and the harder bosses in EverQuest and EverQuest 2 also had similar mechanics, where you had a limited amount of time to down it. Now, the fact of the matter is as well that this is an optional boss. As much as the rhetoric might say, hey, this is the true last boss, it's not. It's not the true last boss in a lore respect, by any stretch of the imagination. It's like saying Oro was the true last boss of AQ40. It wasn't. Cthulhu was. Oro was an optional boss. It was a detour as well. It's like it wasn't directly in front or behind, it was like to the side of Cthulhu. You had to go down like a completely different route to get to. Won't be the first boss that's done that either. Now, I suppose the complaining lies as to whether or not people actually believe this is the true last boss or not. To be honest, I don't really see why. It's like, oh, well, here's our justification for whining. It's not really an optional boss because it's the end of the instance, therefore we consider it to be the last boss. Yeah, well, you know what? Do you really want to have this instance on farm in a few weeks? I know I don't. And people are saying, oh, well, Blizzard can't design a difficult fight anymore. Algernon is a really difficult fight. Yogg-Saron is a difficult fight. There's a ton of difficult fights in Ulduar. It's like, can they design a fight, on the other hand, that can not be killed in a few days by the Uber Guild? Answer, no. You'll hear it. You will hear it on the show tomorrow, where Mech and Poptees tell us that there will never be another fight that Uber Guilds can't kill in like a few days. And if they can't kill it in a few days of normal wiping and attempts, it's bugged, yeah? It's blocked. Because there's only so difficult you can actually make a fight. It's about execution. If everyone executes perfectly, you win the fight. If they don't, you won't. You can't go beyond perfection, yeah? It's like there are some fights that demanded absolute perfection. Mora Pre-Nerf would be a prime example. Pre-Nerf Archimon would be another prime example. Fights that demanded perfection from you. Algernon demands perfection. Now here's the thing. Attaining perfection is not done by spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours wiping. It's done by figuring out what the strategy is and executing it properly. Now, if that means that guilds have to really think things through instead of smashing their head against the content week after week, then that's fine. For me, this is a balancer. This is all of the people who whined that the only reason that these big guilds managed to kill these bosses so fast was because they were all on welfare and stayed in their basement 24/7 raiding. Here's your equalizer. We're throwing down the gauntlet, guys. You say you guys are good? You think, oh, well, I've got less time, but I'm just as good as these guys? Okay, prove it. And I'm not just talking about who gets the world first. I'm talking about how long it takes you from getting to Algernon to actually kill him. Because you're going to do him in 1 hour chunks per week. And if it takes you 6 months to kill Algernon, whereas from the first attempt of Insidia it takes them a month, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or whatever, then they are better than you. And it's not about the time. Uber Guilds are better than you. That is why they are at that stage. It helps that they're able to raid a lot, but they raid a lot because they're that good. They dedicate more time to it. It's like you're fantastic at football. Do you dedicate a lot of time to it? Of course you do. Because you're good at it. You want to dedicate time to it. You want to play it a lot. It's the same here. I don't understand the whining and the QQ. It's like, obviously this is going to be a hard boss. This isn't just a gimmick. They want it to be genuinely challenging in every respect, and they want it to take a while, and this is probably the only way it's going to take a while, when people can't bash their heads up against it. And the nice thing is, it's not going to involve guilds just like raiding 24/7, day in, day out. They're not going to have to do that. It's going to come purely down to how much skill they've got, and how well they execute the fight, because they'll have an hour window to do it, and they can chill for the rest of the week. Some of them might not like that. Some of them will. But I have to say that in that thread I have not seen a single solid good guild, like high-end guild, bleeding edge of any sort, complaining about it. I don't know, I haven't read EJ. Maybe some of you guys have read Elitist Jerks. Has there been complaining over there? Let me know by emailing themurloc@gmail.com or sending me a tweet on twitter.com/TotalBiscuit. I like to know whether or not the guys who can actually beat this encounter and who are actually at this encounter are whining about it, as opposed to the guys who haven't killed Malagos yet. That would be interesting to know. QQ, for the sake of QQ, let me know. themorlock@gmail.com. Ladies and gents, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I'll be right back after this with the announcement of who won the Arthas contest, and we'll also be talking about the ongoing nerfs to Ulduar and the buffs to the hard modes. Is this particular gap in difficulty an acceptable solution to catering to everybody? My name is Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please on WoW Radio. Enjoy.